All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Art and Research Center lecture series. This is our ICA Miami's third week on animation and the future of the image. This week we had two seminars led by contemporary artist Tala Madani. Last week we had Professor Tom Gunning, and the week prior, Professor Esther Leslie. So we're just rounding our seminar, and I wanted to thank our seminar participants for their active participation and making the seminars as excellent as they were. So I will just get us started. We're really lucky today to have this artist panel conversation. So I'm going to introduce everyone and then just pass the mic over to all of you. So I'll start by introducing Tala Madani, who makes paintings and animations whose indelible images bring together wide-ranging modes of critique, prompting reflection on gender, political authority, and questions of who and what gets represented in art. Her work is populated by mostly naked, bald, middle-aged men engaged in acts that push their bodies to their limits. Bodily fluids and beams of light emerge from their orifices, generating metaphors for the tactile expressivity of paint. In Madani's work, slapstick humor is inseparable from violence, and creation is synonymous with destruction, reflecting a complex and gut-level vision of contemporary power imbalances of all kinds. Her approach to figuration combines the radical morphology of a modernist with a contemporary sense of sequencing, movement, and speed. Thus, her work finds some of its most powerful echoes in cartoons, cinema, and other popular durational forms. She has been the subject of solo exhibitions at institutions including the Henry Art Gallery, University of Washington, Seattle in 2024, the National Museum of Contemporary Art, Athens, Greece, also in 2024, Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles from 2022 to 2023, the Start Museum, Shanghai, 2020, Mori Art Museum in Tokyo, Secession, Vienna, Austria, Porticus, Frankfurt, Germany, La Panacée, Montpellier, France, MIT List Visual Arts Center, Contemporary Art Museum, St. Louis, Nottingham Contemporary, and Moderna Museet, Stockholm, Sweden. Recent group exhibitions include The Living End, Painting and Other Technologies at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago. Burning Down the House, Rethinking Family, Kunstmuseum St. Gallen, Switzerland, the Milwaukee Art Museum, Istanbul Biennial, Whitney Biennial in 2017, Made in LA 2014. Her work is in the permanent collections of institutions including Moderna Museet, Guggenheim, the Museum of Contemporary Art Los Angeles, Steldijk Museum, Tate Modern, Mori Art Museum, and the Whitney Museum of Art. So moving on, and I want to just give a special thanks to Tala for leading our seminars this week and really, sharing more aspects of her work and creating just such a great space to talk with her about all things. So our next speaker is Erkka Nissinen, who lives and works between Helsinki and Hong Kong. In 2007, he was artist in residence at the Rilks Academy in Amsterdam. His work consists of videos, performance, and comics. He won the Illy Prize in Rotterdam in 2011 and the AVEC Prize for Media Arts in 2013. Nissinen's works are concerned with looping logic, bootless searches for meaning, and the absurdist humor to which these things give rise. Though absurd to the point of nonsense and often obscene, Nissinen's work is far from being meaningless. Rather, it discloses a critical take on the difficulties of social interaction, on philosophy, and on the language of media, such as children's television, educational programs, or porn, often all mashed up into one. Nissinen does so by means of video drawing, computer-controlled lights, robotics, performance, and sound. Alongside Nathaniel Mellors, Erkka Nissinen represented Finland at the Venice Biennale in 2017. His work has been included in international public and private collections such as Kiasma, Helsinki Art Museum, Museum Bogemans van Beuningen, Stedeldijk Museum Amsterdam, Museum Gouda, and Museum de Holland, among others. Our final panelist is Nathaniel Mellors, who's born in 1974 in Doncaster, UK, and lives and works in Los Angeles and Amsterdam. Solo exhibitions include The Box, Los Angeles 2016, Center for Contemporary Art, Urzędowski Castle, Warsaw, the Hammer Museum, Los Angeles, Galway Arts Center, Baltimore Museum of Art, Malmö Konsthall, Sweden, Cobra Museum, Amstelveen, Netherlands, and the Institute of Contemporary Arts, London. Mellors has also been featured in group exhibitions at the Museum of Contemporary Art, Roskilde, Denmark, the Taipei Biennale, Taiwan, Manifesta Foundation, Amsterdam, National Gallery of the Arts, Tirana, National Center for Contemporary Arts, Moscow, the Kunsthalle Krems, Austria, the Slaughterhouse, Plymouth, UK, Center for Contemporary Art, Glasgow, and the Hayward Gallery, London, the 54th Venice Biennale, and Fondazione Sandretto Rabodengo, Turin, Italy. He is the recipient of the 2014 Contemporary Art Society Prize and the 2011 Cobra Prize. And as I mentioned, he also represented Finland at the 57th Venice Biennale with their collaborative video installation, The Alto Natives from 2017. So we have an excellent group here, an exciting panel. So I will just leave it to you three to lead your discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you. And thanks for the invitation. And it's been lovely this past week spending some time with all the participants in the ICA Miami seminar. I'm thrilled to have the chance to invite two of the artists that have moved me and my work in the last couple decades. We met, all of us, in 2006, I want to say, 2006, 2007, in Amsterdam, and you know, in this within this huge art world of cacophonous kinds of works and voices, it's great to have people that you can feel can support your vision of where you want the direction of the arts to go to. So it's always been great to be able to share that space and find support when things seem to be going very many different other directions that are not as exciting, perhaps. So when ICA Miami suggested that we can also do conversations, I was sure to bring in Nathaniel and Erkka in a discussion of animation and what I love, that's the future of the image. I mean, that sentence in itself is looking at all of our squares as you're looking at us, the black vertical square, the blurry cutout, and Nathaniel's open, bright, light space, the future of the image and what we can all communicate in what form. I think Erkka just landed in a different country after a 3-hour flight and is in transit. I can see city lights and is well lit up. And there's a cat.
Erkka is in the future at the moment, I think, aren't you, Erkka? You're many hours ahead.
You're many hours ahead, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always many hours ahead.
Yes.
and this is also interesting because Erkka and Nathaniel, while being independent artists, have also collaborated a few times, which is something that is not common that often. I mean, it is common. I don't find it easy, so I find it very amazing when people can collaborate and make things. And I'm sure Donna mentioned they represented Finland in the Venice Biennale with a work that we'll show an excerpt of in 2017. 16 or 17. So that was that work. So before we get into the work, I think I just want to, just because there are many people in the audience, even people who might watch this in the future, that might not know about, I would love a little bit of an invite for our listeners to how each of you start thinking and getting into work, where it comes from, if it comes from an image, if it comes from language, if it comes from an itch, a scratch, a problem, where does it come from? And I can maybe give the mic first to Nathaniel and then we can go to Erkka.
Where does work come from?
The process, your process of beginning to think about work.
Yeah, there's a few things, I think. There's what you kind of carry with you, and then there's like the more, which is the kind of which is still just your way of processing the outside, I suppose, and things that affect you. But there's a bigger time frame to it, and then there's the more the things that feel more of the present. And I think for me, there's quite often some sort of trigger or triggering thing. That's to use the contemporary parlance. triggering things that lead me to want to make work to try and process things, I suppose. And then there's the whole question of how you process things. I mean, I personally am not so interested, and this is not to say people can't do it brilliantly, but I'm not so interested in tackling subjects necessarily in a very obviously direct way, although in some senses what Erkka and I did for the Finland Biennale dealt quite explicitly with things like the first Trump administration and things that were happening politically and economically in both the United States and across the Western world, well, and to some extent globally. I have always had a predilection for things that engage my imagination and things which feel mysterious, maybe that sort of pull me in, that I don't feel like I necessarily immediately understand. So there's a desire for that too. But yeah, it's a combination of my long-term upsets and my short-term upsets, I think.
Into poetry, within poetry. I mean,
yeah,
poetry
yeah,
and
then
the mysticism and the unknown, basically, all of that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah. Doesn't it feels quite abstract, maybe, without looking at work.
Which we will. But I think it's interesting for people to first understand that it is actually a little bit of an abstraction first, and comes from all of that, and then becomes something to do with where one wants to land with all of that. And I think it's nice to see where do you land then. And then Erkka, can you talk a little bit about, about how you start, where you start sort of to think, okay, I want to make something, and how do I, and why do I, and what is the process of you beginning?
For me, it's this very unrational, illogical, mysterious space. The art. It's almost like how I work is like automatic drawing and automatic writing. From those, I sort of sculpt some like bigger things, like longer videos, series, like bigger series of work. I guess it's also processing of everything I have read and seen and everything I'm inspired. But I try to turn off almost like try to turn off the rational mind, rational thinking, and that's like the starting point. And the next stage is some kind of editing of those things that are.
There's a trust. So there's a trust in the automation. Yeah, the automatic that whatever is necessary to come out will come out, and that then you can edit it basically into something else that you're interested in. Yeah.
So lately I have been doing animations, and my process is from automatic drawing into drawings that have more like an idea, clear ideas, and from those single drawings that are more like scenes or some kind of illustrations, they sort of start to move, and then they become animations and animation for me, it's almost like a way to film things that I couldn't really film in reality because I'm totally unable to organize some kind of production with actors and all that. So for me, animation is a way to film a lot of things by and work by myself, basically.
Yeah.
Without any money.
Yeah, the structural limitations lead one to the form that one is able to do, and that And if you just embrace that, it becomes extremely rich. I mean, knowing both your animations and also the alternatives as well. I think the language of the animations and puppets, which were in the alternatives, this language of the familiar child-friendly texture also allows for all the, well, I'm going to show a little scene, all the macabre. It allows for all of that to actually exist. Whereas if you had actors, it would be something else entirely. It would be in the realm of the grotesque and the it makes it much more reachable, and you can sit with it. I mean, I'm going to show it. Before I show a little clip of the alternatives, would you Nathaniel or Erkka, maybe Nathaniel because of Erkka's connection, give a little bit of just an overall view of what the synopsis is? It's an hour-long animation, so we will only show you. I will keep going in and out 5 minutes just to get the flavor of, again, the texture and the attitude.
Show some of the range of how we made it, I think might be useful in this context. Yeah, the idea, so this was an open call for artists to represent Finland, and Erkka suggested that we put together a collaborative proposal. And what we are, there was an initial proposal that we did that was rubbish, but then when we got shortlisted, we revised it. And what we came up with was a play on nationalism, you know, like, because if I don't know if you've been to how many people are aware of the Venice Biennale or how it works, but it's based on it's a kind of it's an early mid 20th century structure essentially, which reflects colonial structures really. It's set in the Giardini in Venice, that's the garden, and also in the Arsenale, which is the old armaments building in Venice. And different nations have pavilions, and the biggest and grandest ones sort of reflect the older kind of colonial structure. So, you know, there's a big old British pavilion there, there's the American pavilion, there's a bunch of different European pavilions, and countries from outside of those structures are sort of represented in other places or more marginally around it these days. So it's a curious one in terms of we thought it would be good to satirize the idea of nationalism, and we came up with this kind of with a satirical narrative, which was a kind of science fiction idea, and it was a kind of what if, you know, and the what if was like, what if there are these two sort of extraterrestrial beings who have a fetish for the idea of Finnish culture, and they have, for whatever misguided reasons, come to the conclusion that Finland represents the some sort of ultimate form of culture, and they have the power to terraform worlds, so they can design and build a world from the very beginnings of life all the way through to advanced civilization. And they keep trying to make a world which is entirely Finnish culturally, and it keeps going wrong. There are two characters. There's a father who is a giant egg, and his son who is a smaller cardboard box. Okay, and the egg is called Jeb, and the cardboard box is called Atom.
So it's a bit of a reflection of the Christian structure of God.
There is some. I mean, one of the things is we were taken. You know, I mean, Erkka knows this stuff. It's in his blood, you know. But but we were taken around the National Museum and shown things around Finland's own creation mythology and paintings that are only about 100 years old, which show these kind of neo-classical bits of mythology around the creation of Finland, which involved a duck and all these different sort of curious things. So we wove some aspects of this into our story, and the scenario was that they are in their spaceship, which looks exactly like the Aalto Pavilion, which is the Finland Pavilion. So, like, that's where you're seeing the work. You're inside this structure, but we're pretending that's their spaceship. And we made an hour-long video to manifest this narrative, but we also built a large talking animatronic egg of Jeb and a talking animatronic cardboard box for Atom, both of which have video projectors on their heads. And they each project a screen, and there's also a third screen, a bigger screen in the space, and it's all synchronized. So you get the hour-long video with its narrative, and you also get the animatronic characters kind of interrupting and talking. And the idea is that the younger son is being sent down to planet Finland to check in and see how things are going after several million years of evolution, and it's all going horribly. And so
show
this
that little
enabled us.
clip, and we can talk about it a bit more afterwards.
Sure.
Because the clip one. And is it available anywhere online on YouTube or anything?
Might be possibly the depressed village section, a 10-minute section.
Parts of it, if you guys Google Erkka Nathaniel's name.
We can maybe post. I can maybe post some links.
Yeah, that you guys can see the bigger and pictures of the installation. Share.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit about this. This is a little bit into the beginning of it.
I feel like there's an egg coming.
What is this? It's an egg. Must be a present from God. I hate God and eggs and God's eggs. I must destroy it.
That duck's making land. I fucking hate land.
Duck, can you make it more Finland-shaped?
Land's the beginning of the end.
I'll fix you some breakfast. Here you go.
I mean, I'm going to stop it just because there's so much to talk about, just even in that. And I would love to get into that. Sorry, let me stop sharing. First, I'm so moved by the number of styles and the cuts and the edit and the speed of which this all just happened in 5 minutes, right? You're getting into creation myths, as you said, but globally. I mean, I know this was specific for that venue, but we're talking about a global Western culture situation here. So it could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be Finland. And the cuts and the attitudes and the freedom of, and thank God for a limited budget, because that drawing scene, if it was anything more than a drawing, it would have been much harder to sort of enjoy in that same
way. Well, I think there's there's reasons why that certain scenes didn't get made.
And yeah, so I feel this was this the first time you guys collaborated, by the way, on something?
Yeah, I think well, this was the funny thing about this kind of project, you know, was it was there was only really a year from us getting commissioned to the project opening in Venice, and so we had to kind of go for it. And in a way, like the budget isn't clear at the beginning, you know, like with certain art projects, maybe you're going to get somebody else is going to plug in at some point, or somebody else is going to support you at some point. And so what we did was write the script and storyboard it, and then record and perform as much of it to the storyboard as we could, and then sort of replace parts of it as we with puppeteering, or so. You'll see maybe if you show another clip Tala later, like there's CGI that Erkka, but Erkka did all that on his laptop with Maya, you know. So our approach was to use as many different forms of animation as we could for it to be sort of dynamic and exciting, but also to be practical about it, you know. Like we didn't feel like we needed to respect and or be consistent in any way, except for in the consistency of the script and the idea, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
It's still very DIY.
Yeah.
Aesthetics and the way
DIY and
everything
creative.
And I think Erkka's
DIY, but
Erkka's storyboarding
very
is
innovative.
very Erkka's drawing is very fast, and there's a visual storyboarding that Erkka is able to do, which is very dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So you can see that, I think,
very
in
cinematic,
cuts, you know, where you cut to the gas hob thing and the details, and you get a lot quite fast. And I think that's like Erkka was saying earlier, in a way, like drawing as a way to stand in place of cinema, you know.
Yes. I'm going to show one little clip. Erkka, please go ahead if you want to say something, but I'll show another clip just so people can understand the range of where this actually goes. And then we can move on to also more contemporary stuff.
I should just say drawing as a form of cinema, rather than it's not standing in place of it. It's just
as a form of cinema.
There's always like a time for me. There's like a time element when I start doing something. It sort of naturally comes there. I can't just make like a still image. It has to sort of continue somehow.
Exactly. I'll show this other clip as well. I'm not sure.
Have I failed? Have I let myself down and everybody else as well? Have I failed? It's not worked out how I wanted it to at all. This poor creature is dancing for me. Please don't stop. Your music is a balm upon my troubled soul. My brain is all itchy when I hear music, and dance the pain subsides temporarily. No one I know can sing anymore, so you must come to our village and sing to all my young friends there. The old people do not understand us because we are different to them. They have put us in hospital. I should be at a university. Instead, I am forced to wander the countryside performing modern dance to ease my pain. Very well. My music can heal you. Popular yet artistic music. Lives lived and lives lives in Finland. Babies born and dogs walked in Finland. Cheeses eaten, herrings pickled, the occasional mass murder, statistically acceptable relative to Finland's culture, Finland's green pastures, Finland's hairy, Finland. This is the marvelous jongleur I told you about. Welcome to our village, stranger. Yes, welcome.
Well, I could watch this for the whole duration, but we have to move on. But yeah, it's so interesting about something that this work really affects me on both sides. It makes me laugh and also makes me cry. It has that sense of I don't know, soulful comedy, because it kind of makes us realize how screwed we are, and that there's still like that sense of you know, I don't know, how we can affect each other, which is surprising. Yeah, not surprising, but yeah, that's what it does. Anyway, so any more? Do you guys want to share more about that experience or how that felt making it, or any thoughts seeing it now in this much more time passed?
Well, I mean, one of the thoughts seeing it now, you know, because we made this in 2017, and this was during all the sort of build a wall rhetoric at the beginning of the first Trump administration. Is that, you know, yeah, the themes that you see, like in that scene where they visit this village and it's experienced some kind of economic depression, but like then there's a cheesemonger who says, you know, I used to make cheese and now I just look at pictures of cheese on the internet, and everybody's kind of, there's a sense that that people are completely they are not able to understand what's happening to them at a material level, but that involves technology in a big way, and they're just living this kind of terrible experience. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things watching it is that the themes that we were sort of making a kind of comedic, kind of politicized satire about have only gotten like 100 times more kind of real for everyone.
So I think both of your new videos of this year also reflects that sort of
that's true,
burn.
isn't it? Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And yeah, it's a curious one. There's a thing about how, you know, like how do you move with it in a way, you know, like I think how do you find artistic currency in things which are in a sense potentially kind of existentially depressing things, you know.
Well, it's depressing times, but there's a lot of ideas in it. There's a lot of really nice ideas. So kind of, it's possible to rejoice. It's possible to rejoice on it in some way.
That's interesting.
Through making art as a kind of almost like a therapy.
Right.
That's what making work now for me is, at least.
Art therapy.
It's basically rejoicing of the like really, really dark world we are living in.
Right.
As a form of therapy, the way to enjoy it, basically.
Definitely. Right. But both of you make work, even though it could be lethargic or therapeutical, that output.
Cathartic.
It's still cathartic. Thank you. Not lethargic, cathartic.
That's okay. Maybe it's lethargic.
Lethargically cathartic. Yeah. That it could. But you both hit it on the head. That you're not doing this need for escape through a kind of making a hole and putting flowers in it, and in a way you would make it work about making a hole and putting flowers in it, as opposed to just focusing on the flower, right? So that my point is, like, there is a way of responding to the moment by totally ignoring it as if it doesn't exist, as if we're not in the shit. Instead, you guys are both, no, we're in the shit. We're going to show it's in the shit.
Yeah.
Making and expressing that is the way. And maybe through expressing that and finding a creative way of responding to that, we actually will find some correct reaction, some way of coming out of it. Because ignoring it seems to really just green light the shit happening. So ignoring it and not naming it, not really expressing the frustrations with it seems to just seems to not be the way. I think collectively, culturally, I think we have to be inside of it, be in it and expose it, and that could make
I think I agree with that. I think to completely ignore it would be bizarre. You know, would be a bizarre thing. It would be like to be kind of just working in some kind of completely separate subject or form of craft or something that is dislocated from the reality,
from the present in any way. Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I also think that everybody people can transform things to different levels, right? So that the way that you process or transform something, and what that results in, and how far away or how sort of poetically, shifted that might be is completely open, but that these things can be a real battery, I think, and that like Erkka's talking about it as some kind of therapy. I think there is a kind of there is a kind of collective traumatization going on, which can fuel all sorts of forms of creative expression, which don't necessarily need to be legible in the final output.
Yeah, I think it might be nice to jump into something that Nathaniel, you've made recently, and then Erkka's made. So I'm going to share.
Yeah.
Right now,
you want to show some of the brainworm piece?
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to give an intro. We just watch it, maybe a bit of technical intro to just say.
I'll just say a couple of things really briefly.
Please,
I just want to make a piece from the point of view of Robert F. Kennedy's brainworm that he had, but from the point of view of the worm. So I started thinking about this idea of the parasite and the host, and the idea of the symbiotic relationship, and then that led me to thinking about mediation, our relationship with the phone, the algorithm, and these things that are controlling us. And so the brainworm's having an identity crisis about what it is in relation to technology. And the way that I did it was I used a silicon worm that Erkka and I had left over from the alternatives, and I stop frame animated it, talking a script that I'd written. And then I used AI from parts of what I'd made in the studio to generate further things, and also to intersect my performance of the voice with musical interludes, which use the script that I've written, which have been generated by AI and then edited by me. So it's very homemade, but a little bit more contemporary in its
well, for me, it's also really using a lot of the contemporary vernaculars that we have. It feels quite. It stops me, and I process it in a really interesting way because of the language, the texture of it being very current in that way.
Right.
I'm gonna share this, and then we can talk more about it. I share.
A is I and I is A. What am I exactly? I am a worm. I am a brainworm inside the skull of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And my relationship with material reality feels compromised.
How do I know I am a worm? And not just the idea of a worm, summarized by an algorithm, which is itself a kind of summary from a broader summary of lots of people's ideas about worms.
Algo, am I an algo? I'm in the algo, so am I an algo? Inside the head of the disconnected, inside the heads of miseducated. Worm, sausage string. Worm, sausage string. Worm, sausage string.
Or even worse, they're questions about worms that they have typed in.
Alpha, am I alfalfa? I am alfalfa, but am I alfalfa? Inside a boutique shopping facility, I like facility, but am I facile? I am a brainworm, I am a brainworm, but am I a crapworm? Inside the head of anyone really, inside the cranially afflicted.
What What if I'm a worm posited within a superstructure which has never really known what a real worm is? Or hasn't for a really long time? So it's like, forgotten?
Worm sausage string. Worm sausage string. Worm sausage string.
Or maybe it did know, but then the idea of what a worm is superseded the empirically determined version. So then I just become a kind of materialization of lots of people's thoughts about worms. Maybe not even focused thoughts, maybe very low quality thoughts, such as their daydreams. Because the algorithm does not distinguish between high quality and low quality thoughts. What if I am but the manifestation of people's crappiest and laziest thoughts about worms? I really can't stand sausages, and sausages on the whole, they can't stand either, can they? Because they haven't got any legs. What if I'm just a sock? What if I'm just a sock? A sock who thinks it's a worm. A sock in a world where people can't imagine a worm as much more than a sock. Worm, sausage, sock, string. 4 tiers. 14. Sockworm, sock sausage, string.
Sausages are okay though, aren't they? Popular at least. More popular than worms. People love encased meat. Encased meat. Meat encasement. Sarcophagus sausage entombment. Ark of the Covenant. Ark of Convenient. The art of convenience. Consumer arcs. Arc of consumption. Arc of consuming more than you produce. Lines on dots. Squiggles.
When I realized I was not a sock in a pure sense, but a manifestation of a lot of daft people's ideas about socks, I did at first become depressed. I underwent a breaking down of my ego, a kind of excoriation of my sense of my precepts regarding my sock self. And at my nadir, an epiphany. My sense of sock was still intact, still beating, still alive to the purposes of life. My revelation then, that I was not my sockish ego. I was something more fundamental, essential, and as I emerged from the ashes and rubble of my prior sense of self, I saw I was on the precipice of opportunity. For I could reshape myself, redefine myself in utter flexibility and with new dynamism, connecting to modes and plateau that my previous prior sense of sockhood prevented me from perceiving even. But now I could be sock, sausage, or string by any measure. By any measure.
When I realized I was not a sock in a pure sense, but a manifestation of a lot of daft people's ideas about socks.
I just sat still, thinking. And after a period of hermetic reflection, I saw 2 parallel modes of being worm. One sausage-based and mystical, one sock-based and scientific. And these need to be exclusive, but, as it were, simply too different.
We won't show the whole thing, even though I would like to. But I think we lost Nathaniel.
Oh, sorry, no, I'm right here.
Okay, great. Yeah, for the sake of time, we won't show it, but you can find it in the ether somewhere, I'm sure. Erkka, had you seen this piece yet? You had.
I have, yes. I like the contrast of this really rough quality of stop motion animation and the AI generated video.
Yeah, it's very
and it's a kind of if AI is this thing that basically boils down or calculates the median of everything. The median looks always very sort of smooth, and it's almost like very difficult for it to do this kind of rough, handmade. I guess this kind of rough, handmade, uneven stop motion.
It's quite challenging to get it to do interesting things, because it continuously moves towards a kind of average, I was listening this week to some new music that's been really successful, and there was some blogger was posting about this R&B album that's completely AI generated, and it just sounded to me, it sounded completely average, and I was thinking it's quite interesting because there was this sense of like they were talking about this as if like, hey, we're all screwed or whatever because AI can do this so convincingly. But it seems to me that if you've been moving these cultural forms towards something that's completely mediocre already, that there's already been this kind of averaging down towards something that's very, very generic, then it's quite easy for AI to manifest the generic, but it becomes interesting. I mean, I think the fact that there's billions and trillions of dollars and probably the economy is going to collapse because of all the money they're pumping into this thing that's not even profitable, but it's there for artists to use it relatively cheaply. And there are ways that it can do surprising things and wrong things. And, I think a lot of the time, for me, it's about the choices that you're making at like every or every millisecond or whatever, as you interface with these things. So the thing itself is just a set of possibilities, and it can deliver awful things, but it can also kind of deliver, sort of golden moments of surprise.
Well, also, but it's because you're talking about this sort of the problem of perception. I mean, the fact that the using of it makes total sense because it is about how it affects us and perception and changes reality. And so it's a great internal, external, structural thing that is happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, in a way, like, if I can speak more theoretically, I'm a big fan of Pier Paolo Pasolini's films, and the Italian director, and he made films in the 60s and 70s. He was murdered in 1974, and he was a kind of outspoken, physically stamped down into submission, but a version that plays out through consumer choice, where people choose the most mediocre outcomes in a way, that it leads to this thing that he called bourgeois entropy, which is a kind of flattening out and a kind of mediocrity that is the result of free market capitalism. And I think it's interesting to think about the way that this idea of the algorithm seems to be a manifestation of that, in that it is the product of some neoliberal rationale, which is all about trying to work out averages in order to have markets and to be able to sort of exploit, to get as much information as you can from people to be able to monetize it. This leads to this kind of there's something, it kind of reinforces the generic. So I think, it's interesting to think about how you can rupture the generic, and how can you use these tools in a way against themselves potentially.
You made some work in Giant Bomb, which was all about cultural recycling. Man eating his own poo and sort of reproducing his parts of his body through this kind of.
Yeah, that was.
And I think it's almost like the precursor of what's happening now with AI. In a way, it's making this AI median sausage out of all the information. But then there's like, who decides what is valuable information and what is not, because the trashiest social media content is always dominant in size compared to the scientific accurate information
this is
available.
True.
So obviously it's very biased in that sense, the whole AI system.
Yeah,
because
well, it's so interesting. Yeah, this is like there are like certain levels to this cannibalism as well now, because also I read a lot of kind of macroeconomics stuff, and one of the things that people who are analyzing the tech industry are talking about is the way that these companies like Oracle and Nvidia and are all plugging into each other, doing capital raises, issuing debt, and giving each other billions and billions of dollars in this way that's completely circular and unsustainable. So there's another level of this kind of almost like that seems to mirror the way that these algorithms and things play out, which is potentially completely unsustainable.
Eating its own tail.
It's when there's no more middle classes who are able to buy products. There's just these big companies who are basically paying each other just to keep the economy
like a
going.
Kind of,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think that I just want to go back to what you were saying about Pasolini's sort of foreboding of or kind of talking about this problem of late state capitalism and self-policing.
Yeah.
Because I think it is. I just want to spell it out that it is about the fear that's inside everybody. The fear, self-policing, self-canceling what you might want to do in fear that it gets you outside of this race, right? And then you're left outside and you're no longer a participant. So you become really So it's sort of creating a situation when you have to police yourself and know that you're being watched. I'm just going to sort of speak to the audience about how one can watch the work on themselves, right? I mean, all of us, like, how can you monitor how you can step out of it yourself, just psychologically, outside of the state of being in this moment, being in this state. It becomes really interesting. I think that's also a really good segue to Erkka's new piece, because
definitely
presents this state,
not regulating yourself, and
I need to find the sorry, 1 second. Erkka, could you give us a little intro about how what you were thinking with this piece, or how you?
I've been doing mostly live action videos in the past. Then lately I got into, some years ago, I started to do drawings. It's something I always did, and then I stopped drawing immediately when I got into art school and didn't do it for like 20 years. And then I started to do these drawings that they are not like fine art, very nice. They are more like illustrations for scenes. And then from those, the mind sort of starts to connect various things, and this sort of they started to move, and the animation came out.
Yeah.
So in a way, the drawing was for me a way of writing.
Yeah. I will share it now. It's a how long is the piece?
This is about 18 minutes altogether.
Altogether, it's 18 minutes. You will watch a part of it.
Yes. Yes.
What have you got?
2.
I had more.
What do you have? 3. I have 4.
I'm fascinated by the fact that, so it's like sort of a Hunger Games survival situation that you have there too, with this, the age. I'm fascinated by the age of these characters, that they're all older. I'm fascinated by the fact that sex is still a thing, like sex, even in this dystopic space of nothing, somehow sex is still viable or something that people are participating in. Love the work. The work thing is like a thing. I'm going to show the other collaboration that you guys did on the song that Nathaniel made, that you guys made into a video. Work is big. Yeah, and how much it pushes. It pushes real. It pushes. It keeps churning, like that. That, you know, like oh, yeah.
I feel like when you say sex is still a thing, it feels like the sex in this just feels like a totally like a currency, like a completely transactional,
Totally.
you know, sort of abstraction of sex that leans into it as in terms of power and currency, and not at all in any other any other regard, which is
it's
kind of
emotionally completely emotionally disconnected.
Yeah, and everybody is like visibly, everybody is visibly so miserable right from the beginning.
There is nothing.
There is just everybody right from the beginning. I just hadn't really clocked that when I saw it before. Right from the beginning, they're so unhappy in nature. It's quite funny for me to watch this because my dad's such a keen bird watcher, you know. So he's out there with his little notebook and everything. That's a whole world that I could have never imagined, you know. Yeah. I don't think I will. I think I'll let him be.
He doesn't need to see it.
I don't think so. Not really.
Yeah. You did everything yourself, Erkka, yeah? This is a one-man production?
Yes, this is one-man production. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about some kind of landscape and this almost like wanting to inhabit this land, like a story without any kind of, like usually in a story, in a film, you have like a conflict, and then the hero is trying to solve the conflict, and then you get happy or sad ending or something like that. It's Aristotelian structure, but here I think the conflict is the society itself, and it's basically just a description of this kind of imaginary society. It's starting to resemble our current day reality a little bit more and more. And then each episode happens in different institution, like or different place, like in space, nature, work, home, and so on.
It makes me think, I mean, not it doesn't make me think, but I reflect that we, all three of us, use the penis as like a way of signifying the problem or some aspect of the problems.
Yeah, for me, it's the biggest challenge in making art, how to do it without penis, basically. And that's what I always try to do. I never manage. It always comes out, the penis.
Yeah. Yes. The penis has there's you can't avoid the fact that the penis is a culprit in all of this shit that is going on. The whatever this masculine overarch of our society still that you like to sort of like point to and say not so good. Yeah. Nathaniel too, that also was a one-man production situation. I just want to say that because I'm not sure who our audience is, and if anyone wants to make things themselves, I just want to really green light that I think there's a lot of tools and people can make things now with the box of the computer or even just a pencil and a camera or whatever. So I don't know anything about computer After Effects, but you do too. So I do ask for someone to help me animate my paintings, but two of you can make things on your own. Basically.
I mean, for my stock frame animation, I use Dragon Frame with my laptop, and I have a Edelkrone slider head.
Yes.
So I can program keyframes to have it move. But actually, I've kind of not even been using that much and just focusing more on just getting a good micro level of focus, depth of field, and doing these things that I can animate quite quickly.
Yes.
And it's useful. It's just great to be able to have that relationship between frame and sound in a very tight way, It's just kind of constructing something that's dynamic really and that doesn't exhaust. You have to experiment to work out your processes, of course, and allow yourself that. But then once you get rolling, it's nice to be able to work quite quickly with things that could otherwise be quite labor intensive.
Well, the other thing is that, sorry, I cut you off, is that sometimes when you're in your own process and you're not actually having a huge production team, is that you also know when it becomes a problem, when the piece is lagging or when you need to actually intersect with something else. Whereas if it's always sent out for production, sometimes that is one of the aspects of a redundancy of form, I think, today. Is that there's a lot of stuff being made without any content or without any purpose or without any sort of like real like raison d'être, reason to be, you know. So when one is really with the piece itself, you're not going to stick with it if it's boring you. So one of the reasons to really be with it yourself is that you can sort of scratch around until it's there for you, to entertain you first and foremost, and it's not getting lost in some kind of production line. Erkka, I'm sorry, you were saying.
For me, it's very difficult to make a script and then take it to producer and then go through the whole process. And then just a step of making a script that is then film, like the ready-made, it's completely impossible for me. So for me, it's really the only way to make films is through improvisation.
Yeah.
Like I write it as such, or draw it, or whatever, or animate it.
Yeah. Same. I mean, I will show you one of my pieces, and mine is even less of it. I mean, I come from painting, so in a way, my animations are usually about a minute or 2 minutes. So talk about a really quick, really a moving painting, really just something that I wanted to just show emotion. Its emotion is like the whole thing. It doesn't really have middle, and it's just boom. But just to support my penis comment, I just will show this one clip and then we can move on. You both probably know it. It's called The Crowd. It was also when Trump got elected. This is also right after the Trump election.
I love that.
Thank you. I had to write a huge script.
I just want to say, like, this is a nice example of something which is, you know, and I was saying it's like it's all these decisions you make all the way, and like the way that you've chosen to make that with whether either watercolor or translucent ink, something which is in a sense the opposite of the materiality that it's manifesting through its action it really gives it a lot, and sometimes it's what you need is the opposite of what might seem like of the first idea.
That is very interesting
on a material level. Sometimes
on a material level. Yeah.
It's been very nice to see you, because you send me all your links to all your videos to see the whole everything. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
But what I notice as a progression from the beginning is that you start with just oil paint, and then towards the end there's this another reality or another element coming in, which is like you are actual live footage backgrounds or photographs, and it gets more and more. It's sort of that reality is swallowing, and in the end there's just very little paint, and most of it is the reality in a way.
Yeah, the space.
In the yes, in a way the stage is changing into you are using like the actual reality as the stage, which is very nice contrast.
Definitely.
And in this one also there are these different like stylistic. It's almost like a clash between these different stylistic expressions. The penis being translucent and the crowd being sort of animated with this kind of line drawing.
This one I actually made it on a negative. I found some negative film that was just overexposed, so it was just empty, but it would be able to have that light. Once you scan it, it would really be lit up. And so I did make some watercolory. I mean, it's not actually watercolor; it's paint for negatives on the negative, just because of that desire to be close to the cinematic.
Yes.
With the non-scripted, so it's sort of, it's interesting how, Nathaniel, what you were saying about the materiality of it, it was just because I wanted to rub shoulders with anything to do with the cinematic, because I know the piece was so much of a 1 second idea and you know, not narrative at all. And the funny thing about the space being photographic now more and more in the background of my animations, and I can show you guys another piece too, with this character Shepmom going up staircases, is because I feel with versus painting, I feel a very strong desire to not give to painting in excess. So for me right now, with the excessiveness of everything that we're experiencing in terms of material and product and being hit by form, that I feel a desire to abstain heavily from excessive mark making, except for the point. And I mean, I think there's a commonality between all three of our works, where even in the videos, you guys are very spar. I mean, it's just everything that is there visually is just the surface.
Lazy. We're lazy.
Yeah, no, I think we're not interested in performing for some suggestion of some. It should be. It must be something. Yeah, lazy in the correct way. Lazy in a way of not wanting to feed a kind of prototype for what it should look like. Lazy to the benefit of the piece, I hope.
Yeah,
that's the aim. But that's an attitude. It's a setting. It's a feeling that is right now. I feel if I were to be against that, I would be dancing for some.
Well, I think I would see that in terms of like what we're talking about here is how you find the form for the idea, right? You're not working to service a pre-existent form or to service somebody else's form,
notion of art in any way,
or any of that.
Yeah,
exactly. And therefore, if you're finding the form for the thing, then you don't need to find it beyond. It doesn't need to necessarily be over elaborated. I mean, you know, it can be if you have time, or you know, whatever.
But also because we are in this
what you get from it.
World together, collectively, everybody. I also feel like when there is an oversaturation of something, I too feel it in my, you know, if we're thinking of water and it's just taking over and we're looking for breath, I feel it psychically that there's an oversaturation. So by default, there's a reactionary action too. I'm reacting against the oversaturation by wanting to be more and more towards minimal action for the result, for the conceiving the idea. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense in a way that I hope that it does, but I hope it does. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, to us.
It's not also now we are competing with all the AI content, basically. So it's like the whole media is, everything is saturated because of that.
Yes. Well, this is interesting to come to, because the topic is the future of the image. Whatever the future of image might be too limited, but the future of experiencing art, the future of experiencing ideas through visual language. So that's and we did touch a little bit about how earlier this week about how the AI is making this problem of the kitsch and the cliche ever more palpable, because it is so much more of it. It's on speed. So what is what are our reflections on that? The future.
Maybe soon most of the content will be AI generated. The content that the AI then is using is using AI generated content, where it's like this eternal feedback loop. Like in Nathaniel Mellors' Giant Bomb video.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, you know, there's. It's. I think it's quite. I don't think it's people have worked out the usage of this stuff properly yet. You know, in any. You know, I mean, I think like we've observed, it works. It works from a common pool of imagery. You know, in terms of video and stuff. Generation, and in terms of sound and music generation, you know, you can do very convincing simulacra of things which are well established online, and so the question is, why would you want to, or what are you going to do with that? I think, in terms of what we were talking about this idea of finding the form for what you want, finding the appropriate form for what you want to do, that's a process which requires a certain level of invention, or it could be, it can be playing off some of these technologies, but the choices that you're making are going to be really key to establish some kind of sovereignty from that sort of mainstream gush, which is a kind of which continuously moves towards the lowest common denominator. I think it also it has enormous potential in terms of what you're talking about, Erkka, in a way, with drawing and things like that, which is that there's a kind of there's things which like when I do like that little bit of flat animation with the worm doing the stand-up comedy. I mean, it's kind of crap looking, and I'm fine with that, so it works for me. But it enables me to quickly do some other kind of visual registration, or a different thing which would take a lot of time or money to do in other circumstances.
It democratizes filmmaking.
Yeah, there's a lot
of these technologies.
I think it can be incredibly enabling, but it's a question of sort of engaging with it in the right ways, and maybe also embracing how it does certain things wrong. I mean, with these technologies, often in there when they haven't been fully worked out, there's always a lot of possibility, or there's it's exciting. Like when you had the whole genre of acid house happening because of an unsuccessful attempt to create an electronic bass player in a box, right? It didn't sound anything like an actual bass player. It sounded like acid house music, So there's the potential for misapplication, I think, is
but
rich.
the other thing about this is also that people will also become desensitized to its effects. So it also will have it will be amplified, it will be quick, people will have it a lot, use it a lot, but it'll also lose its potency.
Well, I think that happened very quickly, right? People are very bored and annoyed all the time on Instagram. I mean, I try not to spend much time on Instagram, but you see these fake AI videos all the time, and people are just spending their time.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger problem is like the fake problem, right? I mean, not the art problem, but the fake news issue, and the sort of like the problem of how it can generate things and misrepresent things, not in art, but in where people want actual information for their life.
But
we're not addressing that. We're not talking. That's a whole other.
A much bigger structural misdirection that people are experiencing, which this is one part of.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about the creative aspect of this stuff. Yeah.
I feel like my reaction almost is to make this very laborious animation by hand, manually.
Yeah, exactly. A reaction.
And what's not nice about animation is that you can simplify things. You can visually, like I can have the minimum amount of drawing lines that I want, as a reaction to the visual noise that we are now facing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it kind of
only the peanuts should be AI. The big peanuts.
Yes.
It kind of
We should have last thoughts.
Well, that's AI sausage.
The AI sausage, exactly. There's another collaboration. But we should open it to questions. I think it was our aim to also let the audience react and have a moment to use this moment for themselves and what they want to talk about a little bit.
Thank you all so much for sharing just, bits of your practice. And it's been a very generative week. And I know that our group is also very grateful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to participate.
Thank you.
Thank yous in the chat.
Yes, thanks. It's been great. Thanks so much, Anna. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.